Today, the most interesting person in the room is Casey Dawson, a U.S. Olympic speed skater whose journey to the 2022 Beijing Olympics is nothing short of a blockbuster movie. Just weeks before the Olympics, Casey tests positive for COVID-19. And for the next 3 weeks, he endures over 45 PCR tests, all of which the results say it's impossible for you to travel. So his Olympic dreams are seemingly over as he's literally watching the opening ceremonies on his couch at home. He's dressed in his Team USA gear, just hoping for a miracle. And then finally, he passes the COVID protocols. And so that creates a multi-continental journey. Salt Lake to Atlanta, Atlanta to Paris, Paris to Beijing. He lands just hours before his event, only to find out that his luggage has been lost in transit. But also lost in transit are his custom skates that he needs to compete with. So what happens next? Let's find out.
This is the most interesting person.
The most interesting person.
The most interesting person.
Most interesting person.
The most interesting person.
Welcome to the most interesting person in the room.
Casey Dawson, welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's awesome to be invited and do this. It's super cool.
Yeah, so let's go back to that moment, right? You're excited, you're getting ready, all this hard work is about to pay off, you're about to go into the Olympics, and then you find out you're testing positive for COVID. What was that like?
So first off, I was riding the high from, qualifying for my first Olympics. This was my second time around doing Olympic trials, but in 2018, I was too young. I was like 17 years old back then, still getting into the flow of skating. But this time around, I was getting super serious about skating. I was competitive. We were a competitive team in the team pursuit. We just broken the world record before the Olympic trials. So I was super excited. And once I qualified, I mean, it was, I was walking on a dream, it felt like. But it was still a realistic thing with the pandemic going on around us. We couldn't have anyone watch the Olympic trials. My parents, they're debating even coming to, Milwaukee where they were, and they ended up just staying home because they weren't even allowed in the rink to watch. So, yeah, so I was like, okay, I just need to avoid it as best I can. And then I got home after the trials, and we did some like tests just to see if everyone was healthy. And the first test, was negative, and I was like, okay, I'm fine. And then after that, I tested positive, and asymptomatically, I just had to deal with the COVID protocol by staying home, not being able to go down to the oval. I wasn't even allowed to skate in the meantime, which is, my sport. So it was pretty crazy. I had to do other means of training other than skating to, keep my body in shape and everything. Because, in my mind at that time, I was like, it's just going to turn over at any time now. Like, it shouldn't last more than a week or two.
Right.
And so I kept testing positive and positive. We're spending all this money for PCR tests because, we thought it was going to be negative the next time around. But 3 weeks straight, it was 45 tests later. I was still positive, and, the team was already leaving to the Olympics. They left, and I was, yeah, like you were saying, I was watching the opening ceremonies on my couch.
Yeah.
Like dreams are broken.
And so when that test is, you keep waiting and waiting, thinking, surely the next time this is going to pass and I'll be able to go. So as you're watching your teammates get ready, or actually not watching because you're literally probably in almost quarantine, especially when they're getting ready to go, what is that like for you to know that all that is going on and you're missing out on it?
It was definitely devastating because, I was just stuck at home. And I just had to basically take the matters in my own hands. I mean, my parents were there, obviously, they're helping me. They were calling up like some of the top doctors in the nation to see like what to do. And it was just tough because, it was so new to me, so new to everyone. And I didn't know what to do. I was just, I just had a test on a piece of paper saying I was positive, even though I felt like I was negative. I felt just as healthy as ever.
Yeah.
And, I just had to wait on the results to turn negative. And, I was watching on social media, like all my teammates, like having the whole experience of like getting a charter flight over to China and, doing the fitting with all the different apparel and stuff. And, they literally sent me the apparel, the Olympic apparel, in just big cardboard boxes, and they showed up just in my garage, essentially at home. And I just, dug through them and tried them on myself at home, and that's all I could do. That was my experience. It was so different to everyone else's, and it was wild, and it was definitely heartbreaking because I was definitely expecting just to be going with them for sure.
Yeah, and I think, it's such a different experience. Obviously, Olympians work all their lives well before the cameras, well before anybody even knows their name to get to this point. And it can be devastating when you don't qualify, you don't make the team.
Yeah.
And then you watch the team go. But when you've actually made the team, when you've actually done the work and gotten the approval and the selection to be a representative of the country, and at the same time, like you said, you're feeling great. You have this test that says you're not ready and cleared to go. But
Yeah.
what a different sensation. Did you almost feel like, in a way, like you were being robbed of that experience? I mean, if we're just being honest about it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely felt like it was supposed to go the way that everyone else had it going for them. It was, you dream as a kid if when you want to become an Olympian, it's just such a cool thing. And you watch it on TV and you're like, oh, that's how everything's supposed to go. You're supposed to go over there, you're supposed to compete at the top level. But, there's, you never think about the factors around you, trying to stay healthy and trying to stay away from injury and everything. And, I've been definitely doing that as an athlete because we have all the resources to do that. But, you know, that little thing that just comes out of nowhere and takes the opportunity to travel and go over to the event that you're supposed to compete in is definitely a whole different thing because it's out of your control. You can't control if you get sick or not.
Right.
It can happen at the worst moments.
Yeah.
And it was just such an unknown at the time. And I just had to stay patient. And I felt like I was getting robbed, but in the back of my head, I was like, I should be there. So I'm gonna keep fighting for what I think is right for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And at the same time, because this is a team sport, the team is already going. Is there an alternate that's now over there that's going to take your spot? How did that all work?
Yeah, so the team pursuit usually consists of three people skating around in the track. Um, but we usually have a fourth alternate, which that year we had a fourth guy. He was about 35 years old, 36 years old at the time. A little bit older than all of us. I was 21, my other teammate was 21, and then we had a 25 or 26-year-old at the time. And those were, we were the ones that were like up and coming into sport. Whereas the 35-year-old was, he was Joey Mantilla. He was a little bit more experienced in the sport. He was a 28-time world champion on inline and everything. So
Wow.
he had some experience before even getting on the ice.
Yeah.
And, my journey started on the ice and so did most people. So it was we have that experience behind us if somebody gets injured or something and can't skate or literally is not there to skate, so they can take your spot. And we tried their best to like incorporate that fourth person in some of the World Cup races like leading up to the Olympics to like have that strength and like confidence if somebody or something goes wrong, and throw that fourth person in. And, we were like thinking like, oh man, we might have to throw that fourth person in because, I wasn't there,
Yeah.
with everyone traveling over there. And it was just so, unknown if or when I was going to get over there.
When you're having that many PCR tests, like, Did your head feel like it was about to like explode? I mean, that's a lot of testing. You know, you
Yeah.
hear, student athletes have gone through a lot of that daily testing sometimes, but that's a lot of tests. What physically did that feel like for you?
Yeah. So, I took all the different tests. I took the ones they put up your nose. I took the ones, like you spit in or whatever. It's a ton of different tests I had to take. And, I feel like I haven't taken a ton up to that point. And then, having to take one every day, maybe twice a day, just having to get all the results you can. It almost felt like it was a routine, almost a
Yeah.
week or two after starting taking tests because it just became so normal. And, it definitely takes a toll on you because I mean, I spent the time, I got a navage, which is like a little thing that like rinses out your nasal cavities, and
Yeah.
got one of those. And, I did that every day and just tried to get all the bad stuff out. And, it didn't really help, it just kept being positive, positive, positive.
Yeah.
And it was just exhausting for sure. It was definitely a mind game, I think, at that point.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. So,
Yeah.
okay, so as we're kind of progressing through this, you're testing, you're not getting the results. It's literally like feels like you're playing for the lottery, right? You're just waiting for that number to come up to say, okay, I can go. And at the same time, now everybody's starting to go over there. You're seeing and watching everyone taking part in this experience that's supposed to be your experience. You're doing everything you can to stay positive and also stay ready because you are physically ready to be able to take the ice and do your job.
Yeah.
When you're watching the opening ceremonies and you're with your parents and you're watching and you're seeing the athletes there, what is your both your mindset but also your true realization that like this probably won't happen? Like it would take what seems like at this point a miracle because after 40 some odd tests, it almost becomes like, well, is one more really going to do it? So take us back to that moment and watching it on TV.
So I mean, it was definitely tough watching it. And, I was getting all these interviews from, some of the bigger broadcasters out there. They're following my story as well. And, doing those interviews, it made me realize like I'm still at home and everyone else is in Beijing doing their thing. And I think that almost I use that negative energy to, convert it into kind of like almost like anger because, and I use that anger to almost motivate me to work still. Like, I feel like if I gave up, I would just stop, working out at that in those moments where I had to work hard and keep going through. But I
Yeah.
think I use that energy to like almost push me through some of the harder workouts that I had while everyone else was still over at the Olympics. So I had to almost channel that and like, use it to motivate me and to tell myself, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. And like, I think every moment I had a negative thought, I would just tell myself, I'm going to get there no matter what. And I'm going to keep fighting because, I deserved to be there and I had my spot on the team. It was just a blank space waiting for me in China. So I just
Yeah.
had to wait.
It really is a testament to that athlete mindset that you clearly have, that drive where you can take the negativity and turn it into fuel. Because for you to have the energy, the drive, the determination to keep doing workouts literally as you're watching it on television, somehow saying, I mean, you couldn't have felt more far away than being in Utah than
Yeah.
the Beijing Olympics while it's all going on. So I just love the fact that you were able to find that strength and mental preparedness to just keep going. And it's a good thing that you did keep yourself in that ready mode because finally you get this result that you're looking for, right? The lotto number comes up, it's yours. You can punch your ticket and actually go to Beijing. What was that moment like? Was it surreal, in disbelief, or what?
I mean, it was kind of unexpected because, first off, the rules were kind of changed on me. There was like all the rules for going to the Olympics is kind of crazy. And especially with the pandemic, like it had to be two negative tests, but they called my parents and they're like, hey, bad news. Like it's supposed to be 4 negative tests. And, that moment I was like, oh man, like I'm missing another day. Like I missed my 5K at that point, or I was going to miss my 5K now that I had to get 4 negative tests. But by then I had two, so I knew I had to keep going. And finally I got that fourth test, and we were working out like how I was going to get over there. And that realization was like, all right, it's go time, like it's go mode. And like I have pictures of me like and my dad in the basement just sorting out all the stuff I had the night before my flight, like putting all my stuff into suitcases and everything, making sure I had everything. And I had to pack for more than just the Olympics because I had world championships afterwards. So, it's kind of panic mode, but we made it work. And it was like that moment, I realized like, okay, I'm going. Like, I need to pack up my things, and I'm getting on that plane and leaving tomorrow. And
Yeah.
luckily, they were nice enough there as a commemorance or something. They put me in business class so I could get some sleep on the flight over. So, that was pretty fun. And
Yeah, you earned that one, that's
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, no. So that was definitely the moment where I realized, all right, it's time to go. So
And
yeah.
you're by yourself, right? Your folks didn't come. It was just you, right?
Yeah, so they didn't allow any friends or family to travel
Mhm.
to Beijing just with everything and all the COVID protocols. And it was it was definitely like a moment where like, oh man, I wish they could come.
Yeah.
And I think that's motivated me now, like to go for another Olympics to allow them to come to the next Olympics with me. Like I need them to get their Olympic experience,
Mhm.
because mine was almost stripped from me. So yeah.
Yeah. So you're on this business class, you're taking a moment to kind of catch up to life, right? Oh my gosh, this is happening. Hey, this is great. I can get some sleep. It's the surreal is becoming the for real. You land, and then there's another curveball that's thrown at you about the luggage. Tell us about that.
Well, first off, so my flight was, 24 hours. I had I had the longest way around, I had to go around the whole other way. Whereas the chartered flight, they flew straight to Korea from LA and then Korea to Beijing. So their travel day was probably half as long as
Mm.
mine. And so I landed, I was tired. I was talking to my coach and everything and everyone at the village already. And they were like, all right, well, you have to race in 12 hours. You landed here at 6:30 a.m. Like you got a race to get to at 6:30 p.m.
Oh
And
my God.
I was like, okay, well, let me get my luggage and everything. And, I saw all the bags coming out, like bag after bag, and other countries getting their bags. And the only bags that weren't coming out were mine. And I was just forced to leave. Like it was just a process. Like you have to get out of the airport or else they're just kicking you out. Like you can't stay there for as long as you can because the
Right.
bus will leave without you. So I had to leave without my bags. I was just like, man, this is like a cherry on top to everything that I just had to go through. Like I don't have my bags or anything. And
Right. And this is also one of those things. It's never fun to lose your luggage. Like, oh,
yeah,
what was in there? My pants, oh, that really good
yeah.
shirt that I like. But for you realize, well, my skates are in there. Like this is what I need. Like, what am I gonna do now? So did that set in panic for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I wish we could bring our skates onto the airplane. Like it's a lot safer. Like in the US domestically, we can do that, but internationally, there's a lot of different rules. And
Yeah.
um, I wish we were able to bring them on, but we have to disassemble them and put the blades into the check luggage, and then we can carry our boots on to the flight. Um, and definitely panic started to set in because uh, skates are very, very individualized, like the blade has a certain bend and a certain rock to it, and each person's bend and rock are different. And the length of the blade and the distance on the bridge is different too. And I was the only one on my team that had the same. I only had one size that fit me, and no one else I could borrow from, essentially. So I was like kind of panicking because I was like, no one else, I can't use anyone else's blades unless I'm using their boots too, which the boots are custom fit to our feet and
Right.
fit into them. So, I was like, okay, I mean, maybe I'll arrive before my race because, there's not a lot of flights going from Paris to Beijing, and maybe they just lost on the plane or something. And,
Right.
it ended up not being the case. I was just waiting and waiting, and I never got the call like, oh, your bags are here. And so the story goes like my coach, he ended up calling up this guy from Latvia. He's the only guy that had the same size bridge as me, and he let me just take a pair of his blades and
Wow.
just basically mount them to my boots because I only had my boots and my skin suit, but not my blade. So I didn't even have clothes. Like I had to wear the same clothes I wore the last 24 hours on the flight going to the rink.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
I was probably smelled terrible and shower badly.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a unique thing that happened on top of all this COVID stuff for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
So you put the blades in, and now do you have how much time do you have to even like practice on them or get a feel for what these different blades feel like on your feet? And was it completely different?
Yeah. So I mean, so the thing about skating is that you have like maybe 30 minutes to, step on the ice and test them out and whatever. Just dial in your skating and stuff. And that was my first time stepping on the rink, and everyone else has been there for a week now, and I've
Yeah.
only been there for 12 hours, maybe less, 10 hours at that point. And I step on the rink, and I think mentally it was harder because you think of a custom thing, you like imagine running a marathon and forgetting your shoes and having to put on someone else's shoes to run in. I think it's the same thing, but even more so because the blades are so unique to each person. And so I think mentally I was like, these feel so different. And I think they actually felt a little bit different because they weren't mine. And, for me, I don't put as much power into the ice because I'm a little bit more of a long distance guy. So they're maybe a little bit flatter. But the guy that I borrowed from, he's a little bit more of a sprinter. So he like has a little bit more bend, I think, to hold that strength that he has. So it was definitely different for sure. And I think I might have overthought it a little bit, like, oh, these aren't my blades. But I was also at the point I was just like pure adrenaline, just getting ready for the race. Like I could have definitely just fallen asleep during the day, but I think the blood was just rushing through me and my heart was pumping and I was just getting ready to race. And um it was it's definitely something I've never felt before for sure. Like,
Yeah, I mean, the fact that of all of this chaos, of all of this exhaustion and upheaval, you suddenly find yourself on Olympic ice for the first time wearing another person's blades. So, yeah, the comfort level, the confidence, and probably certainty. Of course, you're certain about your own ability, but so much of that comes into, as we hear all the time, it's the preparation, it's being ready, it's the constant that you've created in your training and your in getting ready for that, and all of a sudden to not have the very custom things that you're used to. Again, what a amazing story that you had to overcome all of this to put yourself in a position to win, not only for you, but you've got teammates that are now depending on you. So you're in the race. Tell us about this race and what ended up happening.
yeah, so this was actually for the 1500-meter race,
Okay.
which is the race that I didn't end up doing so well in. Like, kind of expect it coming off a flight 12 hours beforehand internationally and skating on someone else's blades, it's not going to go well. And 1500-meter, is in that range where I'm like either really good at it or, it's not doesn't go so well. I'm like a 5K, 10K guy at heart. So
Yeah.
I skated the race and I didn't get the results I wanted for sure. I was on the bottom half of the list. But I think the biggest thing that I took away from it is that I could call myself an Olympian now after all the hardship I had to go through. Like I was happy no matter what because I was just skating there. I was just skating in Beijing at the Olympics and it was surreal, it was definitely like a blessing at the time. Like I the week before I didn't even know, like a couple days before I didn't even know if I was going to even be able to go to Beijing.
Right.
And being able to race that race it was definitely one of the top moments of my skating career, even though I didn't skate fast. But then after that, I knew I had to get myself together, and my team was, yeah, like you said, like they're depending on me to come back and basically get to their level of what they've been skating in Beijing so far and get used to the ice within a day or two, after the race, like they wanted me to be just at the point that I was before, like like the world record performance we had a month or two before. Like we wanted to be back at that level right away.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, they're like, "Hey, Casey, we need Casey Dawson back, right?
Yeah.
Like you're here. Let's recapture what you've been doing because you guys were on such an amazing high, record-setting high."
Yeah. No, exactly. And we wanted to ride that as long as we could. And, this was the biggest stage in the world, and we couldn't let it slip away like that. So, Um, and Joey being a 35, 36-year-old, this was his last Olympics. So, he had expectations and our team had expectations, and
Yeah.
we just wanted to make the experience just as good as it could be. And, if it didn't go well, like, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but we didn't want it to slip away. So we had fire in our eyes for sure. And I especially did after everything I had to go through. So I just had to push through and, just get back and be the team that we were a month before.
And so then what happens? Does the skates ever show up? And then what happens after that?
Yeah, so the skates finally show up the day after my race, my first race, and
Yes.
they show up in plastic bags and outside our door, and it was like, oh man, yes, what a relief. I mean, I could finally like feel what I felt, on my own skates. So it was definitely exciting, and after that, we just locked in on the team pursuit. We had quarterfinals. So what the team pursuit does in the Olympics is a little different than what they do in World Cups. World Cups is usually based on time. You only race one race, and whoever has the fastest time wins, essentially. But in the Olympics, it's quarter, semi, and final type of race. So the team pursuit, you have two teams on either side of the rink, and it's called the pursuit for a reason because you're
Mm,
basically pursuing the other team on the other side, and you have to go essentially as fast as you can for 8 laps. And in the Olympics, if you have to cross the line first to move on to the next round, or
okay.
if you at the quarterfinals doesn't matter as much because you could win or lose, and it just it kind of is like seeded out. Like if you think about like an NBA bracket, like if you lose, you kind of go to a worse team or whatever.
You're still alive.
Yeah, you're still alive. You're still in the water, but we still wanted to win no matter what. Like we didn't want to lose. And at that point, it was kind of Joey was having some back issues, and it was we as a team decided that me, Ethan, and Emery, the young bucks, were gonna skate the first 2 rounds, and we're gonna let Joey skate the last round because you
Okay.
need all four skaters to skate to get a medal if and slash when we get there. So
Okay.
we needed everyone to skate. And so we skated the first round. I think we won or lost. I have to go back. And so it didn't really matter. We got through that round, and the next round was really the most important one, the semifinal. and we were against the Russian team, and we skated that race. We thought we had it in the bag because we skated a faster time than them in the quarterfinal, and we had one of the fastest times in the quarterfinal by a second or two. And we were like, okay, we're on fire. We can get through this.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they have the race of their lives. They set a national record and Olympic record and everything after
Oh.
skating not a very good race. And we were like so confused after the race. We didn't know what to think. It was just kind of like a mini heartbreak at that time because the winner of the semifinal gets to go into the gold silver round,
Mm.
which is guaranteed a medal,
Right.
essentially. Like if you win or lose, you either get a gold medal or a silver medal. And so we lost to the Russian team, and we were just kind of upset because we knew we could beat them, but I just think they had a better race than we did at that time. And I think after that, we kind of realized, okay, there's still some serious competitors in this. Like, we're not the only ones at the top. And, the Olympics, anything can happen. Like, people are at their top shape. We had to get ourselves back together. We had to talk to each other. We were hurting after that race, and, the finals were an hour or two away from
Mhm.
the semifinals. So we had to talk our way up and be like, hey, we can still win a medal out of this. Like, we're not out of this still. We
Yeah.
get the bronze medal, which the bronze medal is won by the person that wins the bronze medal round, essentially. And we were up against the Dutch, which, if anyone knows anything about speed skating, they're the top team out there. They've won almost every single gold medal in speed skating history.
Right, because it's kind of funny, right? Because there is so much about momentum in sports, and when you've come
Yeah.
off of such an amazing season, record-setting season, there's this feeling of almost like it's meant to be. And then even with all of the hurdles and setbacks, the fact that you finally do show up and oh my gosh, he's here and this can happen. We can finalize this story of what feels like this momentous meant to be year, and then you realize you're going to be out of the gold and the silver. Okay, you've got a chance for bronze, but you're going up against the Dutch team, which in its own right is a constant and consistent gold medal winning team.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, I mean, we didn't know what to expect because, everyone on the Dutch team are Olympic medalists. The front guy, he was one of the greats in speed skating for the longest time. He won multiple gold medals, and the other guy won a medal in the 5K. So
Mhm.
we were like, oh man, this is an all-star team we're against.
Yeah.
But, we have to think back, like, we're the all-star team. Like, we have the world record in this distance. And we just had to get ourselves together and be like, hey, like, we're going. Like, we need to do this. We need to get to the start line and finish this race as fast as we can because there's there's no other way that we can beat the Dutch if we can't have a good race. We need to pick ourselves up and just do it. And the thing about our team is that all of us, we haven't been on an international podium individually. Like,
Mhm.
it's hard to see ourselves as like top skaters individually, but when we come together, like, something magical happens. It's a spark.
Yeah.
We just have that confidence in each other, and it's also helped with like all the development we've done in the sport, in the team pursuit, and developing a whole new strategy of keeping the front guy up front and pushing him, literally pushing him around the track. Um, and so it's kind of crazy to think that a bunch of seemingly average Joes, on the individual scale, be winning and setting world records in a sport that's dominated by individual athletes, essentially. So it's kind of crazy to think that, you know, we went into that bronze medal round and we beat the Dutch by, just having that confidence in each other and just, recouping from what we had in the world record race and having that mindset of like, okay, we're top when we're together. We're number one when we're together. And we had the most consistent times throughout quarter, the semi, and the final race. Like we had the most consistent times, whereas other teams were like super slow and then super fast and then super slow again. It was all over the place, but we were just flat. And, that's just something we have, is that we can have good races no matter what. And
Yeah.
it's pretty awesome that we have that.
So you win the bronze medal, amazing, against this championship Dutch team, and that has got to create an additional momentum for you, feeling that consistency, knowing that you're so amazing together and you can put out those consistent performances. What happens after the Olympics?
I think getting that bronze medal was a huge milestone for me. Like first Olympics, getting that bronze medal, it was pretty amazing. I mean, I was 21 at the time. Not a lot of people can say they've gone to the Olympics that young. So it's pretty amazing to have that all-star team around me to motivate me. And, I think it really boosted my confidence in the sport because as a kid, I was like, Olympians are superheroes, and having that superhero moment at the Olympics really motivated me to keep moving on with the sport. And I had the all-around championship. So there's two different types of world championships. There's the all-around championships and there's the single distance championships. And all-around championships is more of a long distance specialized race, and it was my first ever world championships uh, ever. So I was definitely just excited to be there. All these people from the Olympics are going to the world championships as well, and I get to compete against them. And I think having that chance to go there and reskate a 5K, the 5K that I missed at the Olympics, kind of made me excited to race these really good skaters and, kind of have a redo of the Olympics at the World Championships. And, it was a great experience. And I think, it just made me realize that the sport is, something that I want to do till the next Olympics for sure, and just keep going with it because
Yeah.
something amazing for sure.
Well, I think, and it's such a great point, right? Is in all sports, you hear a lot about, getting the experience to be in the arena, to be on the stage. And so to be able to have that experience at the Olympics and then be able to take that, and all of a sudden you're seeing a lot of these Olympians again at the next event. It's like, okay, I've been here, I've had this experience. It doesn't feel as new. It's, the novelty is still there, but at the same time you feel like you have a little bit of more of a foundation for you. And like you said, now it's the look to the next Olympics and preparing. And
Yeah, so I'm trying to, just be a better athlete, like individually, because, the sport is a very individual, like sport. It's you against the clock essentially. And I'm trying to basically just make something happen for myself. And, I'm definitely, I am strong in my individual races, like my 5K, 10K, 1500, but I'm just looking forward to keep making those little marginal steps up towards, this past season, I was able to receive top 10 in the World Cup overall. So that's the overall
amazing.
ranking after 5 or 6 World Cups. And that was pretty awesome to see because, me still pretty young in the sport, on the same stage as some athletes that have been around it for years and years is pretty awesome. And it's just a goal of mine to just, keep seeing those, results just come with the hard work that I put in. And I also was able, so there's a four continents championships that happens every year.
Yes. I wanted to
Um,
ask you about that.
yeah, so that happens every year. It's kind of like a world championship, but without Europe. Every country except for European countries. And there's still some really good skaters there. Like some of the top distance guys are from Canada and Japan and Korea. Like we still had those countries there to compete against. And, it was an awesome experience being at home, and I was able to take the win in the 5K, which was a huge milestone for me. It was my first ever individual, gold medal in a championship race or any race basically that's not a team event. And it was a huge moment because, I had my home crowd, my parents there, and everyone there to witness that. And, I think it just shows that I'm just getting that much better every year. And just marginally, I can see those just changes. And I think it's exciting to see. And I just want to keep that momentum, moving forward. And, it's a sport of milliseconds,
Hmm.
literally.
Yeah.
Like, you have to like that race, that 5K race, I won by 0.03, I think, which
Wow.
that's a blink of an eye,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. It
You,
just shows how at the top levels, how close everyone is. Like everyone is that good. That's how quick you have to win by, which is why in the other race where you were saying you beat the team by like a second, that's like a landslide, right?
yeah.
In those qualifying. Um, Talk to me about the difference between how it feels to win as a team and as an individual, because, with a team, as you mentioned, there's so much of relying on each other, trusting in each other. Even, hey, if I have an off day or an off moment, you were able to pick up the slack. You were able to come through. But when you're an individual, it's like it's all you. And like you said, you versus the clock. So what was the different feeling between winning as a team and then winning as an individual?
Yeah, so winning as a team, I feel like you said it right, like trust in everyone else. And, we spend so much time like talking to each other, how to save a millisecond here and there. And, we have to trust each other to like execute what they're so like each person has their own role. I'm the front guy, so I kind of set up the track pattern for everyone else and hit the apex at the right moment and everything. And the guy in second, is kind of like the connection link between the first and the third guy. He
Okay.
keeps his hand up the whole time and is pushing the front guy for the whole 8 laps. And then the third guy, it's kind of like the accelerator pedal. He builds into the corner and he pushes the people out of the corner. And which because the most of the speed is gained in the corner, and then the straightaway is where you lose most of it. So just staying consistent throughout a race. And I think that carries on because each person's role is so important,
Mm.
and it feels like a success for everyone when you win, but also for yourself because you're able to execute what you wanted to do, um, to a T basically. So it's
Yeah.
definitely uh, a group effort, but also, you have that individual success already there.
Yeah.
Um, but, that can carry into an individual success because, you have those teammates to help you get faster, not just as a team, but as an individual. And you can almost relate your individual success to that team success because, they almost balance each other out. I
Yeah.
think having a team that's so supportive, it's so important because, you get stronger as a team, essentially. That's what I think of skating like. You get stronger as a team. And, you have the younger generation coming up. We have some younger teammates coming to our team this season. And, we just need to bring them up to speed and like show them what it's like to be an elite skater and just like right away, because that's kind of like what happened to me. And, you relate that individual success to your upbringing and like how you got to where you
Right.
are. And you kind of think about that. And obviously you have to give some of it to the coach too, because, they basically been through everything with you until that medal that you just won. So
Yeah.
it's definitely just trusting yourself and trusting everyone around you to get you to that level for sure.
Michael Phelps, I think, was saying, yeah, it was Michael Phelps. And he said, I really hope that somebody does break my record. Like I got to achieve my dream. I would love to be able to see somebody come in and break that record. And I think that that's, again, there's so much competitiveness, but there's also that pushing, that desire of boundaries of like what can be possible, right? So you've just created setting new records, and there could be somebody, maybe even you and your team could break your own record, right? But that's the amazing part about sports, is that it's unscripted. Anything can happen, good or bad, but that's why a lot of eyeballs are glued to sports, because it's unpredictable and lots of amazing things can happen.
Yeah, no, totally. Like literally anything can happen. It's kind of a wild sport in our sport too. Like, the top could be, not the top the next day. Like it's definitely crazy, and it's just always changing. Like there's just so many people coming up and new skaters coming out, and some of the more experienced skaters fall to a younger skater, that's only been skating for a couple of years. So
Yeah.
it's definitely super unpredictable, and it makes it fun for sure. And I'm excited for what's to come in the next year or two.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to be pulling for you. I would love for your family and all those who love you to be able to have an opportunity to see you at the Olympics. There is nothing like that. And so I really look forward to you being able to walk into the next Olympics and like, okay, I've been here before. I know what this is like, and have just that little bit of season on you to really see what happens next. So again, I can't thank you enough for joining me here on the show. Really appreciate the conversation, and want to wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And yeah, it was awesome talking to you. And I'm looking forward to, maybe polishing off that bronze medal to a gold one at the next Olympics for sure.
Absolutely. Go for it. All
Yeah.
right. Thanks so much. And we will talk with you again. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and click here to watch other shows from the most interesting person in the room.